Okay, this is 37th Street Radio and TV, and of course we're out here hooking you up with the best of the best interviews, and today we have another special guest. So guest, please introduce yourself.
Hello world, what's good people? My name is Mariah, but many people know me as Mariah. Yes, the girl with the good name. Say twice. I am a personality, radio host, content creator, podcaster, YouTuber, anything that's entertainment, that's me.
So I knew you from K24 Arena 254. So I just want to know, like, what was life before that?
Interesting enough, I think let me say K24 was really my big break. But after that, I was doing YouTube, and at the same time, I was still in school because I was in University of Nairobi, and I was still getting my feet wet, like with radio. So I was working. I used to do like some what do you call them, cameos on Homeboys. Sometimes I'd do what's this called, the jump off, once in a while. And yeah, so at the time I was still struggling to get my feet wet into media, like mainstream media. And I met Sharon around the time, like 5 months before I joined K24. So she had just gotten the job as the main host of Arena 254. Then they needed a panelist to do the entertainment segment. And she was like, I actually do know someone. And boom, that's how I got to K24. And yes, everything changed ever since.
I also want to know, like, you see, just to know how and when did your love for media really start?
Okay, this is a funny story. So, so back in high school, there was this time, you know, Sele kumekauka, and you guys really want to go for funkies. So there was a prefect who was entertainment prefect at the time. So she went to the principals, not principal, deputy principal. Imagine we made the journalism club in 1 week. And next thing, so when we came back, ways, but when we got back, I think later that week I got into trouble. People told me, Maria, you make so much noise in this school. If you don't do anything with your voice or anything that's media related, that would be a waste. And I went back to class and I was like, So I started this blog. It was called Toxic Blog. So we used to use Manila paper, and I used to write like udaku that's happening in the school, and it used to be mind-blowing. Like the whole school would wait for me to pin my Manila paper there, and like used to go crazy. And ever since, yeah, it's just been a journey since then.
Yeah. So for uni, where did you go to uni and what did you study? Maybe you can talk to us also about that.
I went to the University of Nairobi and I did broadcast journalism. Rather, that was my specialty, but I did media, journalism and media studies, yes. So this is a certified journalist in the building.
So after, maybe while still studying or maybe after studies, I don't know, what was your, like, let's not say biggest opportunity, but what was the like first opportunities that you got at that time?
What do you mean, like when I was still in school or after?
Even when you are still in school, maybe you got an opportunity, you can just talk about that. One of the first opportunities.
Okay.
Maybe.
When I was still in school, because at the time UN had not really expanded on their journalism thing, so it was very hard to find like a studio where, you know, I could do like my voice practice and perfect like my journalism and editing skills all together. So I started a YouTube page where I used to interview celebs, but I did like 3 episodes, and at the time I kept going. Also coursework is getting crazy, so I had to take a break. So when I took a break, because I had to search for internship, I got an internship slot at Radio Africa. So I went in as a social media manager, and it was quite crazy because you meet all these people that you used to look up to when you were younger, and when you're still on your journalism journey. And I'd say from there, I honestly say from there, that's when things became, crazy, because as I was still doing my internship, I remember the energy competition came in, and yeah, let's just say it took off better than I expected. And since doors just started opening, so the next thing is I started doing now the cameos on Homeboys. Next thing I was on K24. Next thing, I'm doing a podcast. I'm being invited here. Yeah, it's honestly just been a journey, but I'd definitely say joining Radio Africa was my biggest break.
For when somebody is studying something, you usually like have a goal. Now I want to know, like, if maybe you had a goal, like if I finish school, I'm praying that I can get a job maybe in this media station. So did you have maybe a fixed mind that I really wish I would be employed by this and this company? Or was it just, let me just go with the flow, take an opportunity whenever it comes?
I'd say at first, because when I was still in school, your mindset is still very closed. So when I was still doing my coursework, I honestly used to want to be on, I used to say Kiss 100 was going to be my theme. So as time went by and, different things happen and life is lifing, you're like, okay, it seems like I had the wrong perception about everything. And I wouldn't say nowadays I'm more of a, if it pleases my heart, I'll do it. Not more of a go with the flow, because I feel like go with the flow gets you into very tricky situations. So if it pleases my heart, I'll definitely do it. Even if it's the biggest deal and I don't think I want to do it, I won't do it.
I want you to talk about the experience at K24. It's a platform where you are with other 2 or 3 hosts, maybe with the DJ and there are artists coming in. So I just want to know, like, your experience. How was it meeting artists? How was it debating about certain topics? How was your experience there?
I'd say it was very, let me say, it was new. It was very refreshing, because there are people that you see and in a million years you'd never think that you'd be walking or brushing shoulders with these people, let alone having conversations. And okay, let me start with that bit first. So it was really nice, to be honest. And to this day, first impressions are everything. So the first 5 or whatever minutes that you get to talk to someone really speaks a lot about you as a person. So there are some celebrities that I met. To this day, we're still very close. We keep in touch, we talk and whatever. And yeah, I'd say that was quite, the first month, it was, you're starstruck. Is this, is that, is the next. But yeah, after a while, it's like, okay, Nani's in the building. Cool. Sometimes you're not even phased. It's like, oh, Nani is here. Okay, I'm still gonna go about my business. You understand? And onto the part about being so many hosts in one show. It was very nice, because I think we all had an understanding that we are different personalities, different people, different backgrounds, different upbringings. So the way you relate to each other in professional terms was another thing. But what most people don't know is that out of the office, we were actually very close-knit. Like Sharon currently is one of my very, very close friends. And yeah, that was one of the, you understand, like as time went by, as we were working, we just became a family. So sometimes, and of course, family fights sometimes. Someone will say something that will piss you off or whatever. But some way, somehow, as long as you know that you're working towards one goal, it's easy to just put the BS aside and keep it pushing. But to be honest, it was nice. It was really nice because these are people, as I've been going through my career, they've helped me to push through. You also help each other. And yeah, it's been really nice. Those are people I wouldn't trade for anything, to be honest.
So for you, you have talked about being at Homeboys, and then we are talking about being at K24. I want to ask you, like, for you, is it radio or TV? Are you most comfortable?
Ooh, honestly, I'm very comfortable with radio because I'm very extra. So sometimes when I'm in front of a screen, the things I really can't do, like if I want to throw my hands, if I want to roll my eyes, you understand, like I have to maintain a certain composure. But when I'm on radio, it's my voice. I feel like if you speak, there's more authenticity than what I bear on my face. Because I could be hurting, but I have a very straight face and you'll not know that there's pain in my soul. But if I open my mouth and you can tell like, this person sounds like they're hurt, this person sounds like they're happy, like they're elated, you understand? So radio has always been my first love. So yeah, we are trying to get back to those roots since now I'm back to doing podcasting and all this stuff. So good things are coming. Yeah.
We'll talk about podcasting, but for now, I just want you to like you see, from the moment that you started to right now, you have also ventured to podcasting, but do you see the growth in skill from compared to when you started and right now?
I'd say, I'm growth in different aspects. Like I've noticed, I've become more, what's the word? As a person, right? Because before I used to struggle with keeping my flow going. As I've been podcasting, I've noticed I can keep one conversation going and I can make it branch into different things. Like my mind has become more open and I feel like I can run a show and I can do a long show because the money I honestly could not, for the life of me, I couldn't do it. And right now it's become a bit easier. So sometimes, it gets a bit difficult, but it's becoming a bit easier. I'd say in terms of my voice, I've learned how to control my range and how to speak, because radio is just not about speaking. There has to be an eloquence in your voice. There has to be entertainment. There has to be information, and there has to be, what's that? I've forgotten the other E. But yes, it's a compound of so many things. And in the back of my mind, I know by the time I'm done talking about a thing, I know I'm supposed to do this, that, and that, not here, compared to before, where it was just, I'm running my mouth and I'm really not saying anything. And I also would say, I feel like with podcasting, you tend to become comfortable because it's one thing over and over and over, compared to radio, where you're sometimes bound to do promos, you're bound to do voiceovers, there's so many aspects that play into radio. But yeah, I'd say in that aspect I'm a little bit sluggish. But yeah, I guess with time, yeah, I'll still keep growing. Like I said, it's still a journey. Every day is a new thing, different curves. So yeah.
We can still talk about podcasting. So you are part of the Cheque podcast, and I just want to know how the idea came about. How did you even find yourself there?
Cheque and I go way back. So pre-COVID, we used to have another podcast. Actually, would I call it a podcast really? Let me say it was an audio-visual podcast. Yeah, that's the word to use. So it was called The Catalyst. So basically, The Catalyst, we used to break down specifically the Kenyan entertainment scene, like ranging from music, you understand, gossip, like everything was strictly Kenyan. So COVID happened, and like the place where we used to shoot, they shut down, and we were trying to put in new ideas like before COVID happened. So it was like everything was all over the place. So COVID has happened, it's the news, you understand, things are trying to pick up and whatever. So we figured, because we tried to do like 2 episodes after it, and it was like things really weren't, you understand, it just felt like something was missing. So we went back to the drawing board and we were like, you know what, probably we should switch up everything that we do. Let's make it a Catalyst 2.0. So we figured we lacked humor, and you understand, we tried to keep the humor, but there was a bigger aspect that was missing in the whole show. So we thought about it, and we figured, who'd do it? Moas. So Moas is like one of the biggest Twitter peeps on this planet, rather in Kenya. So we reached out to him and he was like, I'm down. And that's how Cheque came about. So actually we didn't even have a name. We just knew we wanted to make a fresh podcast. So we were seated, brainstorming, and he was like, oh, you guys, what do you think will work? So we had mics already set up, and we were like, anyway, since, we're about the mics and we're about the money, why not call this podcast Cheque? And that's how Cheque was born.
So for even guys who are starting, you can talk to us about how you create chemistry with other co-hosts, whether on TV, whether in podcasting, whether on radio. I want to know how you create chemistry so that even when you have a conversation, it looks like it's very authentic.
I'd say for us, before the podcast, first of all, I'll say the first thing is you have to understand that people are very different. Like I said, you understand, like you're different personalities, different backgrounds, basically different everything. And I think what works for us is that because we shoot our podcast on Mondays. So Sundays, we have a pre-production meeting. So we'll have a call and we catch up. And before we actually do have the initial meeting, we have catch-up sessions. So like our call will run for like 2 hours. And it's like, okay, what do you do this weekend? And I'm literally talking down to everything. It's like I said, we're literally a family. And it runs all the way even to the guys who do our production. So Sundays, we'll just have on your phones too, like I'm having this conversation with you, and it's like, this and this happens and this happened, we laugh, talk about it. Then we get to a pre-production meeting. Fast forward to Mondays when we actually record. So as the crew is setting up, we sit, we catch up, we have breakfast together as we're talking about different things, you understand? Like basically just gel and just make an environment that everybody feels comfortable around each other, so that even when you sit on camera, it's like you're talking to your best friend, you understand? And I feel like that's what has really worked for us, because initially Cheque and Moas are the ones who knew each other properly. And I met Moas the first time when we shot our first episode. And the first 1 hour that we had with Moas, where, we were all just talking and we're talking about very random things. It's like, boom, me and him just clicked and we did the first episode and sparks were just flying everywhere. So I would honestly advise for people to make that authenticity as friendship. Don't look at your fellow podcaster as a colleague. Build that friendship. Make sure you guys gel. If you can hang out together, hang out. Like sometimes Cheque will have us over at his place for kukula nyama and just chill. It will be a weekend and there's an event. It's like, you guys, let's link up. Let's go for this event together. You understand? Build that friendship, and with that friendship is where everything just solidifies. Yeah.
For you, somebody can say that you are very all-rounded from your experience in radio, TV. Right now you are podcasting, and I know you get to see the back-end data. So I want to ask you this: do you really think the Kenyan audience is warming up to podcasting? Do you really think it's something that they are slowly starting to embrace? Because I've seen very many podcasts emerging.
I would say yes and no, because we tend to consider our data when most of the time when we're considering things to do with media, we mostly look at the urban space, which is Nairobi. And in Nairobi, we're in a space where, most people, let me say 85% of the population has a smartphone and all these things. It's very easy for me. If I buy my data 1 GB for like an hour, I can listen to my favorite podcast on the go and whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, right now we're becoming a very fast generation, and nobody has the time to be sitting around, walking around with your radio and, trying to look for frequency. That's you can see even mainstream is trying to go digital, where you can stream on your net as you go. But podcasting might take a little bit of time because everybody has their niche. And we have not come to a space where there's everything for everybody yet. Like right now, I'd say most podcasters in Nairobi, we're sort of doing the same thing, talking about the same things. It's just that we're different personalities. But I feel like as we go and as the niches keep expanding, definitely, then a larger population will become podcast consumers. But right now, I'd say we're on a good path. Like, yeah, so far, so good.
Another thing I want us to talk about is I even know that in your experiences you have heard about this. So I just want to know your views about this. There are talks that traditional media is dead and guys are moving on to social media, YouTube, and platforms that host podcasts. So for you, I don't know where you stand on this argument.
I wouldn't say it's dead. But I'd say there's definitely a lot of work that still needs to be done. There's so much that's still yet to be tapped. And there's still so much that is so raw in the mainstream, especially considering the fact that right now, like I said, we are a very popcorn generation. As long as you have a smartphone, you can control what you want to listen to, how you want to listen to it, when you want to listen to it, compared to previous times where we were all dependent on a radio, dependent on a TV. And you understand, and stats could show like at this time, Kilam Top Nyumbani, this time everybody's at work. So you know how to place what with what. Whereas now, even at 8 p.m. where you know everybody's at home, it's not everybody who's watching telly, it's not everybody who's trying to listen to your show. So with that, there's so much that comes into play when to consider that mainstream is dead or podcasting is the future. Well, podcasting is the future, but even mainstream still is the future if we tweak a few things in Nairobi and in Kenya as a whole.
Yeah, okay. And another thing I also want to ask is, you see, like for you, you went to uni and studied media. I want to, if somebody comes to you right now and asks you, should I go to school to study media, or should I just, if I have a little money, just invest in a smartphone, microphone, start practicing learning by use of YouTube, because there are these opportunities nowadays. Guys can go to YouTube. There was no YouTube many years ago, so guys can go to YouTube, maybe Spotify, learn about certain things and start practicing. What will you advise somebody? Must you go to school, or can you just start practicing and get better with time?
Starters, kids stay in school. That's the first thing I'll say. Stay in school. But I don't know. I'd say I'm very traditional, so I'll be very biased about this. So definitely I would advise just go to school, because there's a very different kind of training and expansion that it does to your mind. Because I don't know, I feel like journalism is one course that is considered a quote unquote rubbish course, because right now, like I said, as long as you have a smartphone, you have a ring light, you can speak eloquently, boom, you can be considered a journalist. But there's something, like for me, I'd say going to journalism school really did help a lot, because you understand the ethics, you understand backgrounds, and of course, there's still many other, what do you call them, skills that you're instilled with, because at this stage that I am, I can do anything that's communication related. I can do PR. So even if today they say ring lights zimeacha kuproduciwa, boom, I can jump on PR. You understand? If they say printers, they're no longer making printers, they're no longer doing this, that, and the next, there's development communication. Like, be a progressive journalist. So I would definitely advise going for a journalist. It's important to go to school, get that extra skill as you perfect your own skill. Because one thing that we don't understand, or most people don't really grasp, is the fact that just because you have the skill to speak, or the skill to give information, or the skill to entertain, that doesn't just qualify you as a quote unquote journalist. There's still the same way as a lawyer. Just because I can understand the Constitution, that doesn't mean I can go in front of a court and represent a murder case or a murderer. You understand? So get that proper background, get that proper teaching, and yeah, as you go, keeping your own thing. Like you said, if you have the money to do it, you can start your own thing for sure as you keep going, but definitely just get that skill from a proper institution. That's what I'd say.
We've talked about a couple of things, and even as we are finishing up, you have been able to do a lot of things in the media space. So I just want to know if you have ever experienced self-doubt and how you dealt with that.
Yeah, to date, I still do. I won't even front. There are days when I wake up and I'm like, is this really what I want to do? Especially, after COVID happened, and I lost my job, and it was like, okay, and with getting back into mainstream sometimes can really be a problem, especially if let's say if you don't have a big name to yourself. So, the days you sit and you're like, is this really, like, is this really what I want to do? And, the times, and also self-judging a lot. Like, to this day, even after we record our episodes, I sit and I watch myself and I'm like, nah, this is not it. But one thing that I always remind myself, first things first, I'm a firm believer in God, and I know one thing for sure is God doesn't place things in your heart that he knows are not meant for you. So the fact that I've been doing this and I've had this passion like since I was 12 years old, I know I am definitely on the right path, even though I have days where I doubt myself, and which is normal. I mean, there's nobody with 1,000% faith in themselves. You can only have enough belief in what your purpose is and what you're aligned to do. So every day I wake up and I remind myself, this is your calling, this is your purpose, you're walking in it, do it. And that's the only faith and belief that I stand on. And yeah, that's how I keep going every day.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us your time. I'm very grateful.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And thank you for having me too. I'm honestly so honored. Thank you so much.